Let's start off with the fact that firearms are much more effective than bear spray. Bear spray is inconsistent at best and self-debilitating at worst. The wind can blow that bear spray right back at you and make you totally vulnerable. You should remember the fact that bear spray is temporary and that bears can and will come back to attack you multiple times. Out of 37 cases where guns were used defensively against bears, 36 were successful. The one that wasn't successful was due to that man grazing or missing the bear with his gunfire. Making lethal shots on a charging grizzly is difficult but not impossible. Some people take both the gun and bear spray with the intent to decide in the moment what to use. This plan is a recipe for disaster. You will not have time for decisions, you only have time for reactions. Your first reaction should be to draw your gun. That should be drilled into you on a subconscious level. If you are in bear country and you smell, see, or hear anything strange, you should draw your gun before your conscious brain has time to figure out what's wrong. In the YouTube video, Truth About 10mm and Bears, Todd Larson of Basswood Trails Guide Service tells us about his personal experience of shooting bears. First of all, he mentions that he uses a 10mm because it has more stopping power than any other semi-auto. This tells us a couple things. First, that he has chosen a semi-auto over a revolver. Second, that 10mm is more effective at penetrating deep and therefore stopping the bear than other semi-auto calibers, specifically .45. He also mentions pursuing a bear that was not fatally wounded by a crossbow bolt in its lung. He and 3 other people were shooting at this bear and failing to stop it with a .44 Magnum, 2 .45s, and a 10mm. The bullets were not penetrating the chest cavity and were glancing off the head. A .44 Magnum did penetrate the chest, but it did not stop the bear. It wasn't until the bear stood up that Todd fired the 4 10mm shots into the chest that finally killed the bear. The fat was thinner there on its chest, which is why the 10mm bullets could penetrate there. The bear was shot 36 times. Now we know that we need deep penetrating bullets and lots of them. We also know that penetrating both lungs or the heart is important. Hitting the central nervous system is ideal, but not likely. Just like the FBI, we need to set some standards. We need a minimum requirement for penetration and the ideal amount of penetration. If we look at Buffalo Boar's website, we find Phil Shoemaker's story of using a 9mm pistol to kill a bear. He had a Smith & Wesson 3954 with a 3.5-inch barrel. He was using 9mm plus Pete Outdoorsman 147 grain hard cast ammunition. From what I understand, that round would have had about 1,000 feet per second of velocity and 326 foot-pounds of energy. I've seen a 9mm 147 grain full metal jacket with about 100 feet per second more velocity penetrate 24 inches of clear ballistics gel. So let's use 24 inches as the minimum penetration needed. Buffalo Boar also mentions that bears can take 15 to 30 seconds to stop after taking mortal wounds. What about ideal penetration? Let's go over to Foggy Mountain Guide Service and see what they have to say. From what they know, you shouldn't hunt bear with anything less than a .41 Magnum or a .44 Magnum. They have some pretty specific and helpful requirements, but not a penetration specification. We can take their .44 Magnum jacketed soft point advice and find Ballistic's gel testing for that type of round. We can use the 30-inch penetration of this .44 Magnum as the ideal penetration depth. After all this research, we can begin to come to some conclusions. Handguns are nice as backup weapons, but nothing beats a rifle. Specifically, you want a semi-auto rifle like a .308 AR-10 or a Magnum caliber Browning BAR. Pump, bolt, or lever action firearms are slower to fire than semi-autos and require two uninjured hands to work the action. It's very likely for you to sustain damage to your hands or arms during a bear attack. Bear attacks are also very fast, and the increased fire rate of a semi-auto can mean the difference between life and death. While I can't tell you what is the best bear cartridges for you personally, I can tell you that a .30-06 and .308 are both capable of killing grizzlies. Also, don't pick a cartridge that you dread to shoot because of the recoil. Finally, proper bullet selection is very important. Nosler partition, Swift A-frame, Barnes TSX, Woodley weld core, Hornady DGX bonded, and Federal Trophy bonded Bear Claw are all good bullets. It's also important to remember that your rifle or your shotgun likely could be pinned to your body by the weight of the bear as it stands on. Obviously, a semi-auto with an 18-inch barrel is preferred. Broby has some invaluable first-hand experience and data. He had the misfortune of having to shoot a bear in self-defense. The slugs he was using didn't penetrate deep enough. If 14.5 inches of Ballistic's gel matches up with just beginning to penetrate bear vitals, this further confirms what we know about the penetration minimum. I also know that most expanding 12-gauge shotgun slugs don't penetrate deep enough for bear, and we do have some slugs that we do know work well. Federal True Ball Deep Penetrator, Brennecke R10, and Brennecke Black Magic Magnum.